He said, do you know what it's like to live under these conditions for all these years? I said, so you'd like me to understand just how desperate it can be even for one day, let alone for many years. So I heard what was alive in the guy, not what he thought I was. I didn't say, I ain't killed anybody. I tried to hear what was going on in him. And when he trusted that I sincerely cared what he was feeling, what he was needing, he could start to hear me then when I said, look, I'm frustrated right now because I came a long way to be here. I want to.
How can you communicate and, go back and forth in a fruitful way, actually communicating, not just debating or just going back and forth without actually hearing the other person? You can't do it if you're not being heard. Hello, and welcome back to another episode here on the Bridge Reacts, and I'm your host here on the channel, Marcus. Thank you so much for stopping by to see another episode here on the Bridge, where we're talking about good things, talking about great things. We're also talking about positive things as well. Here on the Bridge, where we're trying to decrease the divorce rate, add into long-lasting relationships and marriages, stronger connections, stronger family bonds. We believe in the nuclear family here on the Bridge. We believe in both parents in the household taking care of that child, showing them growth, learning opportunities, healing, communication skills, so they can be great assets to society, and of course, a stronger working class. If you like what we talk about here on the channel, please subscribe, hit the like button and notification bell as well. Happy New Year and welcome. Welcome to the channel. And big shout out to you as the viewer and the subscriber, all the people who are checking in. We were close to our goal. I am predicting the future we might have not hit the 500 goal, but maybe we did. We'll see, I guess, right? Content creator to viewer, we really appreciate you, and thank you so much for helping us grow, build that bridge, really, literally. And today's video, we are talking about something a little bit different when it comes to communication and how detrimental communication really is, truly is, because so many things can be avoided with the right way of communication, truly. So the specific form or type of communication we are talking about is nonviolent communication. And the individual who created this is actually the one and only Marshall B. Rosenberg. He's a PhD, and he has built this whole thing and tradition off of Gandhi and of course Martin Luther King. He is someone who truly believes in peace, communicating the right way so that we can resolve issues and literally have strong connections, build bridges and not burn them. Exactly what we need here on the channel. So please check out the original content creator and we'll get straight to it.
In your 40 years of mediating conflicts between warring factions around the world, what's the most important thing that you do that creates peace between the people involved?
First, I never hear what they think. See, I get called a lot of names by people who hear what I'm saying. I see you've read my book. You probably can recall I was in a refugee camp in Palestinian Authority, and what all the crowd had to do was hear from my interpreter that I was an American, and a gentleman jumps up and screams at me, murder, and another one jumps up, assassin, and another one calls child killer. Within an hour, the guy that called me a murderer invites me to a Ramadan dinner at his house. I didn't hear what he thought of me. I connected to what he was feeling, what he was needing. As I walked.
Just from that alone, man. I mean, you can take a lot from this already, just like perceptions and how people can just automatically assume. Was that person really an evil person? Do they have evil intent to just say these hateful words, or they were just being really emotional and they weren't being heard? They felt as though they had needs that weren't being met, triggered from just your presence, just knowing that you're an American, which I'm not even mad at you as anyone else who's not American, and you're in the presence of an American. I get it, trust me.
Into that refugee camp, there were hundreds of tear gas grenades all over the lawn, shot in the night before when they had a riot there. And on the side of each of the grenades was written, "Made in USA." So when this guy calls me murderer, hearing that I'm an American, I tried to hear, what is the guy feeling? And I said, sir, are you furious? And then I tried to hear his needs. Are you needing a different kind of support from my country than you're getting? And he looks at me in a kind of a stunned way. Apparently that's not the way people respond to him usually when he screams at them. He said, you're damn right. We don't have sewage. We don't have housing. Why are you sending these weapons? So I said, well, then that makes it clear why you'd be so aggravated. If you don't have these basics and you get these weapons sent over here, I can see that your needs are for some other kind of support. He said, do you know what it's like to live under these conditions for all these years? I said, so you'd like me to understand just how desperate it can be even for one day, let alone for many years. So I heard what was alive in the guy, not what he thought I was. I didn't say, I ain't killed anybody. I tried to hear what was going on in him. And when he trusted that I sincerely cared what he was feeling, what he was needing, he could start to hear me then when I said, look, I'm frustrated right now because I came a long way to be here. I want to.
How can you communicate and, go back and forth in a fruitful way, actually communicating, not just debating or just going back and forth without actually hearing the other person? You can't do it if you're not being heard. We as human beings, we feel as though we have not been heard. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but we tend to, retract our listening ears. We tend to completely not hear the other person and what they're trying to say and convey to us because we are not feeling heard. We're not feeling met. Our needs aren't being met. So how can we try to tend to your needs if we are over here still struggling to have our needs, right?
Offer something, and I'm worried now that because you got me labeled as an American, you ain't going to listen to me. He said, what do you want to say to us? So he could hear me then. And we have a school there now, one of the schools that we call a nonviolent communication school in that refugee camp.
That's awesome.
And whenever I go to that region, I'm well received hospitably in that refugee camp. But I had to see the human being behind the names that he was calling me.
Being called a name is not the same as being violently attacked by terrorists. Do you feel that there is ever justification in using violence or aggression when responding to such an attack?
Here, I would say no to violence or aggression, yes to the protective use of force. There are times when we need to use the protective use of force, but never violence and never punishment. When people are evil, you think that the way to bring about change when people are behaving in a way you don't like is to make people hate themselves for what they're doing. So for these political reasons and theological reasons, we started to develop a language that I call jackal language. It's a language that cuts us off from life, makes it very easy to be violent. Very easy to be violent. In fact, in that book I mentioned, Wink says that domination cultures, one of the things you have to educate people is to make violence enjoyable. We've done a good job of that. We make violence enjoyable in our culture. Children are watching television the most, and 75% of the programs they watch, the hero either kills somebody or beats them up, you see? And when does this happen? At the climax of the program. We've been educated for quite a while to make violence enjoyable. The protective use of force is necessary when another person, for whatever reason, is not willing to communicate, and meanwhile, their actions are threatening our needs. So we need to take whatever action can be made to protect against that happening. But we can do that without violence. Gene Sharp's writings show how throughout history people have defended against even armies and violent armies coming at them through the protective use of force. I was walking down a street in Paris about 4 years ago, a busy street, and a woman was walking next to me. All of a sudden, a man comes running up, spins her around, and hits her right in the face, and he starts for her again. Well, there wasn't time for me to talk with this man, so I used force to restrain him from doing that. I didn't want to punish him. I didn't beat him. But I had sufficient force that I could keep him from continuing. So yes, times you use force to prevent violence, but not in the form of punishment to make people suffer because you have judged them as evil.
And that's the thing about us. There is an actual 15 to 20 minutes, maybe there's a much longer version actually of him speaking to an entire audience, and he's showing off, the nonviolent communication, what he means by it. But what he's saying here, when it comes to punishing people for, in a sense, not hearing you or for not seeing what you're trying to say, and not only trying to just correct them or, trying to meet them halfway, but instead of that, you're going the extra mile to even punish them. That's not how you communicate. That's not how we've been taught to communicate like that. That's not how you communicate. That's not how you build connections. That's building resentment. You're not supposed to do that. And we have been taught, especially as American people, I imagine like westernized teachings that, oh, you have wronged me or you don't understand me. So not only am I going to force myself to make sure you understand me, but I'm going to punish you for not understanding me, which is wrong.
But just talking to terrorists and the governments who harbor them doesn't seem to work either. Look at all the peace talks we've had, and the violence just continues.
Well, the kind of peace talks we have, I'm not very optimistic that they can prevent violence. They're not the kind of connections that get people connected with each other's humanness. They're basically arguments, and that they try to find some compromise. We need to grow up and find out that there are far more powerful ways of having peace talks than the ones we now engage in.
How would you engage these people in peace talks?
Pretty much as I told you I did with the tribes in Africa, or when I've done, I was doing a little mediation between a group of Israelis and Palestinians in Jerusalem. And I started that. I said, let's look at what your needs are that are not getting met. And a Mukhtar, who was a mayor of a village, he looked across at the Israelis and said in a nice tone, does it bother you people to be acting like Nazis? And then a woman jumps up, an Israeli woman jumps up and immediately says, I should have known better than to come to this meeting. That was a totally insensitive thing for you to say, Mukhtar. And she starts for the door. She's about to leave. We have hardly had 2 sentences and people are already worse off than we began. So my role there was to help each connect at the need level. So I said to the Mukhtar, and I knew what he was reacting to. He was reacting to a law that enabled the people to be put in prison for 6 months on suspicion. He was reacting to that. I said, Mukhtar, are you needing some understanding of how your need for safety isn't met with that law? He said, that's what I'm trying to say. Well, of course, he didn't say it exactly that way.
Yeah.
And then I helped the woman to hear that. And then it was a different connection than when she's hearing.
Yo, Dr. Marshall is like, he's literally a bridge. Big shout out to Dr. Marshall. Is he still alive? Is he still around? Because he'd be great for the channel.
And so that's what I do in those cases. I help people speak a language of life, which is closer to the truth, just what everybody needs, and stay away from these enemy images that can easily sound like blame, criticism, attack. And unfortunately, most people aren't taught the language that I am suggesting, so I have to loan it to them when I do mediations at that level.
And we appreciate that. Big shout out to Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And I'm going to wrap this up, give my final thoughts. It's a little bit more to the video. I'm going to put the video in the description and more of his content. Please check it out, especially if you're not the best at communicating or you know someone who is not great at communicating. We all do. So please check it out. But my final thoughts, right? Wrap this up. Nonviolent communication, that is something that I actually truly try to practice, especially when it comes to like how we accuse people of saying things or accuse people of, violent communication. Say for an example, someone did something, cut me off and it made me mad, right? Technically, they didn't make me mad. I was mad because of the scenario of them cutting me off, and I chose to accept that emotion, and thus I was mad. They can't make me mad. You get what I'm saying? No one can make you feel a specific emotion. No one can make you happy. No one can make you sad or upset. You can have a reaction or emotion because of an action, but to a degree, they can't force you to feel that emotion. If you're not in control of your emotions, then you might not necessarily be an emotional controlled person. Like you are someone who is uncontrollable when it comes to your emotions. You allow them to control you. And that says a lot. Like you have to really elevate past that. And it's hard to. It is so hard to. It is something that I still am working towards now today. And I don't have it right all the time. I'm not perfect, man. I'm learning every day. I'm trying to grow and heal from a lot of things every day. With nonviolent communication, just imagine the way that we can actually bridge the gap between a lot of us when it comes to the sexes, when it comes to religions, when it comes to just nations, people. We are all people. We all have needs that need to be met. And if we feel as though our needs aren't being met, how are we able to communicate? How are we able to hear one another? How are we able to really connect? Because again, we are all people. And I know I'm one of those crazy individuals that believes in God and believes that we are all children of God, but it's like we all have 10 fingers, 10 toes, or we're the blueprints of us is supposed to have 10 toes, 10 fingers, whatever, right? 2 legs, 2 arms, set of eyes, ears, a nose, a mouth sometimes that needs to be quiet, ears that sometimes need to be open to listen. And then it all starts with having your needs met, right? So I think truly that if we are able to utilize that nonviolent communication, I'm going to take it upon myself to really practice this in my day-to-day life, because it's not always easy. Like, especially when emotions are high, especially, these days, things are crazy, prices are high, whatever, and things are happening. Things are in the sky. If you haven't noticed, like, there's lots going on. But it doesn't mean that, anyone can force an emotion on you. It's up to you to control that, and at least maybe ask how you can meet someone's needs, so that way they can listen and hear you, and that way you guys can communicate. And it goes both ways, right? But those are my final thoughts. Please let me know in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the video. Have you ever even heard of nonviolent communication? Have you even heard of Marshall Rosenberg, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg? Big shout out to you once again as a viewer. This should be the first of the year when I drop this video. I really appreciate you guys once again stopping by and subscribing, checking out the video, liking the videos as well, and sharing them with your friends. Hopefully you guys have nonviolent communication, and yeah, let's be better people and let's heal, grow together. That's what it's all about. I'll see you guys next time.